Now that I've gotten my honourable mentions list out of the way and pissed off a steady supply of people by not putting Watsky on my main list, I can only say that I'm really sorry. But as is the way with opinions, you should try not to let it affect you too badly. Then again, this is the internet, and being offended by opinions is pretty much our entire lexicon. With that having been said, I have a whopping 20 albums to get through, and this video will cover the first 10 of those, or the second 10 of 30 if you want to include the previous lists. It's up to you really. By the way, let's do this thingle. Number 20. Anti-Flag, 2020 Vision. Okay, before anyone points it out, yes, the album's title is 2020 Vision, it came out in 2020, and it's number 20 on my list. I swear that wasn't planned, and it wasn't based for a really dumb pun. I wish it was, but it's not. This was one of the first really good albums of the year, dropping Way the Effect back in January 2020, and I'm a fan of these guys anyway, so I couldn't not include these guys on the list. They somehow do a great job of encapsulating America's current political state while going over the past 4 years of thankfully now ex-President Trump's administration. Although, because I wrote this before what happened not too long ago in America, I don't really feel so good about saying those words. Anyway, let's focus on the album which is just furious, well put together, and slugs as hard as you would expect from Anti-Flag. Raise your own flag, and I haven't read in the script that it says set it on fire, but please don't. Like, do something good if you live in America. Please, just try and sort your shit out. Number 19, Stolen Wheelchairs, The America. November was, in my opinion, the best month of 2020 for music, but I did try to shave off how many albums I heard in that month from this list. Hell, even December had an album that we'll get to later on. This album is docked a few points for being so recent, and it's also an album that suffers from a lot of punk tropes that I should typically hate, but something about the way that the fantastically named Stolen Wheelchairs did it just really clicked for me. This is that blue-collar DIY style of punk put into a modern scope and polish without losing any of its edge, and the fact that it bounces across all different types of subject matter without losing any of its speed is a testament to just how good this thing is, and how much of an eye I'm going to be keeping on this band. Number 18. Sharptooth, Transitional Forms. You know, in a year that's been pretty heavy on the human race, it was a good time for a lot of heavy music to step up. While a lot of metal in 2020 didn't step up to the plate as much as I would have hoped, its hardcore and punk scenes shone through beautifully. Sharptooth have been working tirelessly since they first formed around 6 years ago, and with their second album here and the buzz surrounding them, they're going to be a band worth talking about in the immediate future. Lead vocalist Lauren Kashan, I hope I'm saying that right, tears this thing up with a brutal central performance, the riffs slam hard, and of course there's some important feeling lyrics on this one. This is a great second showing from these guys, I really should get around to their debut, and I'm looking forward to what's next. Number 17. Creeper, Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void. Well, here's a statement that's maybe going to get me lynched, not me putting this album so low, in fact, I'm glad it's on the list at all. But this is the statement that's probably going to get me murdered. I didn't really get Eternity in Your Arms. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't see what others saw in it, and I didn't really see what others saw in the band. Luckily, Sexy Deathy here made me go, yep, I get it now. It's a sonically different album from their debut, which threw some folks off, but I welcomed the change, honestly. It's got an 80s sort of vibe to it, mixing its horror punk styles with more elements of glam theatricality and the classical storytelling lean to it. It's also a concept album, and I told you guys that there would be more of those on these lists. I apologise that I didn't really get it at first when it comes to Creeper, but with this album, I totally do, and if it's not too much trouble, maybe I could get some more? Number 16. Avatar, Hunter Gatherer. See? I told you there was metal somewhere on this main list, and of course it's one of the most charismatic and fun bands to take up the genre. Saying a Swedish band is good at metal is as redundant as saying that pepperoni pizza is tasty, but Avatar are like really good at metal. They've always been a more experimental band with their genre, and it always seems to work no matter what they try. The album also takes a darker tone, which is saying something, and the fact that this is the band's 8th album, and they still sound this good, is saying even more. I recommend that everyone listen to Avatar as a role, and if you're going to start, hunt and gather this one, you won't regret it. Number 15. Polaris, The Death of Me. Putting this one on here makes me feel genuinely guilty because a lot of 2020's best music came from bands from Australia. There was a lot of albums around that part of the world that just missed making any of my lists, but Polaris was one of the stayers. Considering that a lot of my favourite albums of 2020 are on the more emotional side, this one already ranked well for me, but then I took in other factors like this album's production, its atmosphere and lyricism, and I just fell more in love with it. This is a perfect example of an album with a lot of thought and heart put into it, and its surprising depth and replay value are more than enough for me to recommend it to anybody. Please try this one out for yourselves. Number 14. I Am the Avalanche, Dive. I've covered a lot of newer bands with buzz so far, as well as older artists who can still kill it. I Am the Avalanche are a unique mixture of both, having been around for a long time and being one of the first to play their particular style of emo punk. The band are considered a benchmark for the style, and with albums like this, it's easy to see why they're so revered. The cover art is basic as balls, there's no getting around that, but don't let that fool you, as the album's overall presentation is good, as well as the content behind that. It's just so brilliantly put together with nary dull moment, and it's just one of the most purely fun and enjoyable releases of 2020. Number 13. Movements, No Good Left to Give. Oh, fantastic, would you look at that, another new emotive post-hardcore leaning band who are actually really fucking good. These are one of the lighter sounding bands on this list, but that doesn't mean that they can't get heavy when they need to. This album has some rich, deep lyrical content to it, and the classical emo throwback style and structure really help out a lot with that. Honestly, it's nice to get this style done with just the right balance of nostalgia and modern sensibilities without feeling like it's pandering too strongly to either side. It'll please the target audience, or in my case, a fat 30-year-old who likes stuff like powerful vocals, strong storytelling and complex riffage, but that's just me. Number 12. Grandson. Death of an Optimist. Oh look, another artist that's been getting a lot of buzz. If you know of Grandson, you most likely know his admittedly epic song Blood Water, but after a string of EPs, this is his first full length, and what a debut proper that it is. The dude makes the DIY style into hip-hop rock that he's known for, and he makes it feel like it matters even more. And yep, since it was a December release, it does a good job of encapsulating what a tremendously horrendous year 2020 was. But it's still more in a realistic scope than a pessimistic one, which is a stance that I have to commend Grandson for taking. Optimism might be dead, but the realist in me says that this album is really, really good. Great even. And number 11, Code Orange, Underneath. I'm in a minority group that thinks that Underneath is better than Forever. I genuinely do. And there's also many people who hate me for this one not cracking my top 10, but well, that doesn't really mean that I'll care. What I do care about, though, is this album. Yes. It was easily one of the most hyped up releases of the year, and Code Orange sling out another slugfest of awesomeness. Their typically brutal style is put under a new production scope, with the band taking their newfound-ish stardom and rolling with it. The album is also not lacking in its lyrical content either, speaking about strong subjects with the typical heft that you've come to expect from the band. It's not in the top 10, but I like to see this as a good way to lead into the top 10 proper, which will start next time. Thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye bye.